Kevin Parker had been hearing scratching sounds from his attic for weeks. When he finally investigated, he found an enormous nest-like structure in the corner. 4 feet across, made of newspapers and fabric, methodically constructed. He called his friend Marcus from Wildlife Rescue for help. When Marcus examined it and pulled back the layers, his entire expression changed. Kevin Parker stood in the hallway of his new home, staring up at the attic hatch. 3 months had passed since he'd moved in, and he still hadn't opened that door. The previous owner had been an elderly man named Gerald. He'd died suddenly right here in this house. What struck Kevin as strange was how quickly everything happened afterward. The estate sale wrapped up in less than a week. The price dropped to almost half the market value. But Kevin was desperate for affordable housing and convinced himself he was just being paranoid. The first few nights were quiet, then the sounds started. Scratching noises came from directly above his bedroom. Shifting movements that seemed to follow a pattern. Kevin would lie awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince himself it was just the house settling. But weeks passed, and the sounds continued every single night. His sleep suffered. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was up there. Finally, on a Saturday morning, Kevin decided enough was enough. He grabbed a flashlight and positioned the ladder beneath the attic entrance. His hands shook as he pushed open the hatch. The smell hit him first. Musty, stale air mixed with something else he couldn't identify. Kevin climbed through and swept his flashlight across the space. The attic was mostly bare. A few boxes sat near the entrance. Some old furniture occupied the middle section. Then his flashlight beam caught something in the far corner. A massive structure loomed in the shadows. Kevin moved closer, his heart racing. The thing was enormous, at least 4 feet across and nearly 3 feet high. Layers upon layers of newspaper had been woven together with strips of fabric. Insulation material filled gaps between sections. Dried materials formed the outer shell. Someone had built this. Someone had spent considerable time creating this structure. But who and why? Kevin felt his stomach drop. This wasn't animal activity. This was human construction. He backed away from the nest, his mind racing through possibilities. He pulled out his phone and called Marcus. His friend worked in wildlife rescue and had dealt with all sorts of unusual situations. Marcus arrived within the hour. Kevin led him up to the attic, watching as his friend approached the structure. Marcus circled it slowly, examining the construction. He crouched down and carefully pulled back some of the outer layers. Then Marcus froze. His hands stopped moving. His entire body went rigid. Kevin watched his friend's expression transform from curiosity to something he'd never seen before. Genuine fear. Marcus slowly turned his head toward Kevin, and the look in his eyes made Kevin's blood run cold. Marcus stood up quickly and told Kevin to come down from the attic immediately. His voice was firm, urgent. He said not to touch anything else. Then he pulled out his phone and called the police. Kevin descended the ladder, his legs feeling weak. What had Marcus seen inside that nest? What could possibly require police involvement? He thought about Gerald dying in this house, about how nobody wanted to buy this property, about the rushed estate sale and the suspiciously low price. Was this connected to Gerald's death? The weight felt endless. Kevin paced his living room while Marcus stood guard at the bottom of the attic ladder. Neither of them spoke much. The tension was suffocating. When the police arrived, they didn't treat this as a simple call. 2 patrol officers came first, followed shortly by detectives. They climbed into the attic and established it as a scene. Kevin could hear them moving around up there, speaking in low voices. Equipment was brought in. Photos were being taken. Kevin sat on his couch, unable to process what was happening. This was his home. Now police were treating his attic like a crime scene. Hours passed before a detective finally came downstairs. The man sat across from Kevin and explained what they'd found. The nest had been carefully dismantled layer by layer. Embedded in the very center was a metal lockbox. The box contained documents, birth certificates, passports, adoption papers, but something was wrong with all of them. The names on different documents didn't match each other. Signatures looked traced or forged. Dates were inconsistent and sometimes impossible. The detective told Kevin they needed to investigate further, but the initial examination suggested Gerald had been involved in something illegal. Something involving falsified adoption records spanning many years. The detective asked if Kevin had noticed anything else unusual about the property. Kevin's mind suddenly flashed back to his first tour of the house. The attic door had reinforced locks, heavy-duty deadbolts, but they were installed on the outside of the door, meant to lock the attic from the outside. The realtor had laughed it off, saying Gerald was an eccentric old man. Kevin had accepted that explanation then. Now it felt sinister. Why would someone need to lock an attic from the outside with such heavy security? The detective's expression darkened when Kevin mentioned the locks. He made notes and said this detail was significant. Over the following weeks, the investigation consumed Kevin's life. Detectives returned multiple times with questions. They searched the rest of the house thoroughly. The truth that emerged was disturbing. Gerald had been a social worker decades ago. He'd worked in child services and adoption agencies. At some point, he'd started operating outside the system. He connected pregnant women in crisis with couples willing to pay cash for babies. No legal channels, no official oversight, just money exchanging hands and falsified documents. The nest in the attic was his archive and hiding place. He'd constructed it to look organic, like something a large animal might build. If anyone ever entered the attic and saw it, they might assume it was some kind of wildlife nest and leave it alone. But the investigation revealed something even more troubling. Some of the adoption records in that lockbox involved local families. Children who were now teenagers living in the area had been placed through Gerald's illegal network. Their entire lives were built on lies. Their birth certificates were fake. Their identities were constructed from forged documents that had been hidden in Kevin's attic all this time. Kevin cooperated fully with investigators while struggling with his own emotions. He'd thought the scratching sounds were animals in the walls. The reality was probably just the old structure settling. But knowing what had been hidden above him for months changed everything. Every sound felt different now. Every creak carried weight. The lockbox contents sparked a complex legal situation affecting multiple families. People who thought they knew their own histories discovered their origins were falsified. For Kevin, the affordable house he'd been so grateful to find became something else entirely. The good deal had come with a dark history he never wanted to inherit. He'd found the nest, but its discovery had unraveled far more than just one man's crimes. Kevin eventually moved out. He couldn't stay in that house knowing what had happened there. Sometimes the best deals aren't deals at all. Sometimes they're burdens in disguise. And you, if you found something like this in your own home, what would you do?